Number 3. With trade and a tariff, consumer surplus is. With trade and a tariff. Okay, so let's say the producers win this political battle. They get the government to say that China is dumping goods in the United States and deserves to have a tariff on this good because it's unfair competition. They put a tariff of $8 on every unit that comes into the country. All right? That raises the price from $20 to $28. All right? And now we look at it and say, what's consumer surplus? Well, how much are people going to buy? At a new price of $28, the effective price to consumers, they're going to buy 64 units. This is the new intersection you have to focus on. It's where the tariff plus world price, right here, hits the demand curve. That's how many consumers are going to buy. They're going to buy 64 units. Okay? Now, what's the surplus? Well, the surplus, again, is now this triangle right here. So that's going to be equal to, and I'll take these, well, I'll leave it up here for now. So I'll put consumer surplus, put a little t up there for tariff, is going to be equal to 60 minus 28, which is 32, times 64 times a half, which is going to be equal to 1,024, if you do the math, okay? So, going to your answer here, it says, with trade and a tariff, consumer surplus is 1024. We've got that right. But what's producer surplus now? Why'd they lobby and fight Congress so hard to get this tariff imposed? Well, it's going to be rather obvious in a minute. With the higher price, domestic production increases out again to this higher price of $28, and producer surplus has been improved. It's now this whole triangle right here, right? And that's going to be equal to, we'll put producer surplus, T for tariff, and that's going to be equal to 28 times the new amount that producers are getting, which is 28 again, times 1/2, which is going to come out to be 396 is what I have here, okay? 392, excuse me. 392. So your answer on the test here, on this quiz, the answer is D. There's our consumer surplus at 1024. There's our producer surplus at 392. Hopefully you're noticing something. When we had no tariff, when we had what we called free trade, the total surplus here was what? 1,800. All right? Now we've put a tariff on, and surplus for consumers and producers is going to be this sum right here, but we're not finished. All right? Let's keep going. Number 4, with free trade, total surplus is. Well, I just did that for you, right? With free trade, the total surplus is all the way down there for the consumers, and then this triangle right here for producers. That's the total surplus, and that's just going to be the 1,600 plus the 200, 800. So number 4 we can get to pretty quickly. It's $800, but make sure you see why. Again, with free trade, you have a very large consumer surplus, smaller producer surplus. We have $1,800. Now, you might want to compare that situation to what total surplus was when we didn't have any trade at all. And then it was this triangle right here, okay? And that triangle is 60 times 40, which is what? 2,400 times a half, which is 1,200. So we have increased surplus rather substantially, going from no trade to free trade. So, again, I love this problem. We're going to do all 10 questions from this one diagram. It really encapsulates the entire chapter, in essence, on trade and tariffs and reactions to trade. So let's go to number 5. It says, with trade and a tariff, total surplus is. Well, with trade and a tariff, the consumer surplus is this triangle right here, which we did, all right, which is this right here. There's the consumer surplus with the tariff. Producer surplus is this right here, which we did. So we just have to add these two together, and we're going to get 6,141. 1,416 is going to be our total surplus, and there it is, answer B. So again, I'm moving pretty quickly, but I'm hoping you can stop, make sure you understand where I'm getting these figures from, where it's clear in the diagram. On a test, I could not use the numbers, I could just use letters or something. So it's important you understand the concepts and where they're coming from. All right, let's carry on. Refer to figure 19.7, nothing new here, right? With free trade, the country imports. Well, that's interesting. With free trade, what are the imports in this country? What's coming from other countries? Well, to figure that out, you go to the supply curve. This is domestic production. Domestic production stops at 20, but somehow consumers are purchasing 80 units. The difference has to be imports, right? So this distance from here to here, or from 80 units to 20 units, are the imports. Again, here's the domestic production, stops here because the domestic producers, if they went any higher than that, their cost would be higher than the world price. No one would buy their good. The rest of this comes from imports as consumers go crazy and buy a ton of this. So the number of imports is clearly 60 units, the 80 minus the 20. And you can see that answer is C, 60 units of the good. Moving on to number 7. It says, relative to the free trade outcome, the imposition of the tariff, relative to free trade, so that's here. What are they asking us now? Decrease imports of the good by 16 units and increase domestic production by 8 units. So decrease imports. Let's see what the imports. Certainly imports fell, right? We know imports are 60 units prior with free trade. With the tariff, what are our imports? The imports is this distance right here, the 64 minus the 28. So imports are 36 when we have the tariff. They are 60 when we have free trade. The difference is going to be 24. All right, so we know that first answer is not right. Decrease imports by 16 units and increase, nope, it's not decreasing by 16, it's decreasing by 24. Continue. C, decrease imports of the good by 24 units and increase domestic production of the good by 8 units. Let's try that out. We know the imports go by 24. So they originally were 80 minus 20 is 60. And now with the tariff, people consume 64. 28 is produced domestically. These are the imports. We know the imports are 36. Okay, so we know the 36 subtracted from the 60 is the 24. And now we know domestic production went from 20 units under free trade to all the way up to 28 units with the tariff. Therefore, domestic production increased by 8 units. The answer here is going to be C. Decrease imports by 24 units and increase domestic production by 8 units. That's the answer. Great question, great problem. Let's carry on.